Hey, hello everyone. It's Hedgie, and this is a Saturday evening. Hopefully what will become a usual stream again. And if you've never seen me before, I am a cooking streamer here on Twitch. I was taught to cook by my grandmother and my paternal grandmother, and that
6 months. Where's my food?
Thank you, Andrew. It's coming. I was taught to cook by my grandmother when I was 10 years old, and I spent the next 44 years reading cookbooks and watching PBS chefs, and then later watching the Food Network chefs and cooking instructors, and doing everything I could to learn more about cooking. I even tried to go to school to be a chef, but because of my garlic allergy, they wouldn't let me become a chef, which I thought was rather rude. But so I've got 44 years of cooking experience behind me, and I have used that to collect as many of our family recipes as I can, and I have branched out and started creating my own recipes as well. And now I am here on Twitch for 6 months. This is my 6-month anniversary was the end of last month, and I've been having a great time. And I hope that my followers are having a great time too and are learning some menus that they enjoy. If you have something you want to learn how to cook, you can join my Discord, and there is a stream requests section on it, and you can ask me to cook something that you had in a restaurant once, or that was your favorite thing that your grandma cooked, or something like that. Anything you want to see me cook, just put in request for, and I will get to it as soon as I can. Today I am making pepper steak, which is a fairly standard Americanized Chinese food recipe. So if you go to an authentic Chinese restaurant, I don't really think you're going to find it. But if you go to one of the ones that's been Americanized, this is one of the ones that we generally think about when you go there and you get your egg rolls and your chicken chow mein and almond chicken and such, you're probably going to get this pepper steak. And it is made with a very flavorful but generally tough meat. It is made with either flank steak or round steak, both of which are steaks that have to be cooked either quickly under high heat, or they have to be cooked under very low heat for a very long time in order to be tender. They're very tough cuts of meat, but they have great flavor, and that's why they use them. They're inexpensive and they taste good. So what better reason is that? So I have the recipe in my Discord, posted in my Discord already. It is up there if you want to follow along. And again, that's Discord, and it is stream recipes, where everything I've cooked on stream is listed there for you all. And so I am going to start out with the onion, and this is a sweet onion because I prefer the flavor of sweet onions. They're a milder onion, and it just works better, I think, not to have to cringe when you're eating an onion, or even worse, when you're cutting the onion because the onion is making you cry. Sweet onions can make you cry too. It's just a little bit less likely. Hey Mav, how are you doing there? Have we got Mrs. Mav there too? I bet we do. In which case, hello Kate, how are you doing? I am making pepper steak tonight, and that is an Americanized Chinese recipe. It's beef steak and peppers and bell peppers and onions. Hey, corn dog! I cannot believe you've actually made my stream. Welcome in. Thank you so much for coming. I am making pepper steak tonight, which is going to be served over plain rice, but it could be served over fried rice if you have fried rice ready or just want to fix that. And I am cleaning a sweet onion right now, which is basically taking off the outer layer and skin, because that's the skin itself. The onion skin is not edible and just terribly unpleasant. So I'm taking that off, and then instead of dicing this, which would probably be easier, I'm going to go a little bit fancier. I always cut off the sprout end of the onion. That's the one that has the little stems kind of coming up out of it, and the other one is the root end, and you can see the little root bits coming off of that. And what that does is that holds the onions together so that you can cut it easier, and you don't have to worry about onion pieces going everywhere all over your board. So, at least not until after you've cut it up. And I am going to be cutting this radially, which is a little bit trickier, but it makes for long slices of onion rather than little chunks. And it just kind of goes with the long pepper steak theme, basically. The peppers are cut in long strips, the onions are cut in long strips, the steak's cut in long strips. So that is just, it's an appearance thing. If you wanted to, you could dice this very easily. You could dice all of it if you wanted to. It's just, I suppose it's a bit of a conceit to make it look a little prettier. So, and then at the end, when I'm done with that, then I just dice off the end, and what I've got is a bunch of onions, which are now in strips. So I am going to get, ooh, that's dirty. I am going to get this clean. I'm going to dry it out here because it's got a little bit of specks in it I'm not liking. Oh, that was on the outside. That's why. I figured so. You know, sometimes when you're inside of a bowl, especially a plastic bowl, is wet from being washed, it kind of, it looks speckled with the water, and without my glasses on, I can't really tell that well what exactly those speckles are. So now I'm just going to take here. They're kind of off balance from the way I usually am, but that's okay. I am going to put all of the vegetable that I cut up into a big bowl here for holding, and then once it is cooked, it's going to go back in that bowl while I cook the meat, and then the meat's going to join it, and everything will get back together again in the end with sauce. So this is one of those dishes that the prep for it, cutting up all of the vegetables, takes longer than actually cooking it, because this is probably 10 to 15 minutes of stir frying for the vegetables, and about the same for the meat, and or actually a little faster for the meat, and that's about it. I mean, it's pretty darn quick. This isn't going to be too bad. I just have to cut up the onions, and then I will be cutting up the green pepper. Well, they're not green, but they're bell peppers. I have red, yellow, and orange bell peppers, which are actually the same thing. There is only one kind of bell pepper. It is just their level of ripeness. Green is the color it starts out at when it's mature enough to eat, and it has quite an aggressive tang to it at that point. And then it goes into yellow, and that one's a little sweeter, a little milder. And then it goes from that into orange, again, a little sweeter, a little milder. And then the sweetest kind of bell pepper there is the red bell pepper. It's very pretty, and if you bite it, it has a very sweet aspect to the pepper flavor it has. And bell peppers are 0 on the Scoville. You wear goggles. Okay. Yeah, that is a suggestion. People that are really sensitive to cutting onions, they can wear goggles. They can wear swimming goggles. They even have glasses now that you can buy from cooking stores and Amazon that are made for people who are cutting onions, and they enclose your eyes so that the onion liquid, that it's vaporized when you cut it, can't get in your eyes, and it will make him not sting and burn. I lost that ability a long time ago. My cousin and I got 20 pounds of onions, and we decided we were going to make a massive dose of French onion soup. And so we used a mandolin and we cut 20 pounds of onions, and it just shredded our eyes. And that was, however, one of the best batches of French onion soup we've ever made. We started with beef neck bones, and we roasted those in the oven with herbs, and then we added water and vegetables and wine and simmered that all day long, removed everything from there, strained it, let it sit overnight so all of the spices would marry, and then we came back and did and you can see here I've got nice long slices of onions in here. We then sliced up all these onions and cooked them in batches until they were darkly caramelized, and basically we cooked them until the sugars in the onions caramelize. They turn a dark brown. They're not burned, but they're softened all the way through, and they taste actually very sweet at that point. Add that into the beef broth and heat it up, and we made it actually in a water bath canner. We had so much of it. There were probably 5 gallons of beef broth and 20 pounds of onion in there, and we parceled it up and froze it, and that was just the best soup for 6 months. It was absolutely fabulous. Okay, the next thing I'm putting in here is going to be the peppers I talked about. And I don't like cooking with the green bell pepper because it's just a little harsh. And oh, somebody squished my pepper. That was rude. Oh, they squished that pepper too. It looks like that may have been an in-packing thing. We'll see. I cut these like this. I go radially around them, and the reason why I do that is it cuts off all of the ribs, and it leaves you a nice flattish disc to cut, and it leaves all the seeds inside as well, and you end up with this little cage with seeds inside it, and you can just throw the whole thing away. It's probably the easiest way to deal with a bell pepper. And here you have the little cage, there's all the little seeds, and no muss, no fuss, there you go. Here's your pepper. So I have got a couple little pepper seeds in here, which won't hurt you in this particular kind of pepper. Like I told you, it is a 0 Scoville unit pepper, and I'm going to cut that part off that's closest to where it was broken. So that has no heat at all. None. And that's even a green pepper. And the yellow and orange peppers, bell peppers, are also 0 Scoville unit. Bell peppers in general are. So this is not a pepper that you add to something if you want to have any kind of heat, but it is a pepper you can add if you want to have the pepper flavor with no heat. It features a lot in several different kinds of my soups. And as you can see, again, what we have is the little bottom half of the pepper cage, and here we have the top half of the pepper cage with all of the seeds in it. And then you just throw it away. And we have a complete pepper here with nothing inside it. So now we take the red pepper, which is the most ripe, and after being red, it starts to rot. So you're pretty much done if you have a bell pepper plant, and if you haven't collected it by the time it's turned a nice brilliant red, you're probably going to end up throwing it away. Pepper plants tend to be very prolific, so if you find yourself, if you've planted one, they're easy and fun to grow. They require a lot of water, but aside from that, if you have a lot of peppers you're producing, you can very easily dry these in a food dehydrator, or if your oven sets for 150 degrees, you can cut them up into long slices or dice them and put them on a cookie sheet and put them on the oven for at 150 for, I don't remember exactly how long, but that 150 will not cook them. Instead, it will just dehydrate them. So normally I've been dicing this when I put them in my stuffed pepper soup, and this looks just fine. I think that was split sometime in shipping of this. I had my groceries delivered, and sometimes they're not the best in packing, and you know, I ordered milk and some soda. My Sunkissed Zero Orange here. And that may have fallen over on top of them. And that's what it looks like. It looks like these were just split, not that there was anything wrong with them. On the orange one, I cut out what was a bruise. So I'm just cutting these into strips. And another thing I like to do with red bell peppers is they taste really nice if you either dice them up and put them into tuna salad, or if you hollow them out and keep them whole, and you can fill them with tuna salad if you're going to have some friends over for lunch, or if you're serving this, you know, as an appetizer. You can actually cut it into thick rings and then fill those rings with a zhuzhed up tuna salad and serve that as an appetizer. That tastes really nice too. The sweetness of the pepper does complement the tuna. So these are very juicy vegetables. They're low in calories. If you're trying to cut your calories, they're high in fiber. And, you know, they've got some nice vitamins and minerals and all that in here, but they taste really nice with dips. You know, some, like an herbed cream cheese dip, this would taste really nice with. A ranch dip would taste lovely with. There's a variety of things you can do with these other than use them to cook with. And because they're nice and juicy, they're crunchy and juicy, and they're just very flavorful. It's a nice thing to munch on in addition to your standard, you know, celery and carrot sticks. Some of the other vegetables that you would serve as crudité with, you know, a nice vegetable platter. Maybe serve them with hummus. Well, yeah, my hubby is a little too busy to do that for the most part. He caretakes for both of my parents, and he helps me with everything and helps me with my streaming, none of which would be possible without him because I am disabled and I walk on crutches, and that makes it so I can't carry things, and it makes it very, very difficult to cook or clean or anything like that. And through the grace of my husband, whom I am well aware is an utter prince, and one of the best men I know, I wouldn't be here in front of you now streaming, because this would not have been possible for him, either for the setup or for all of the technical. I am a computer user. I'm not a computer understander. So the Twitch software, the OBS, and all of that, and how it all works together, and not for me. So he gets to help with all of that, and I pay him in food. So so far it's worked out okay, I think, mostly. So I'm almost done with this. I have deviated a little bit from the standard pepper steak. In the standard pepper steak, you've got peppers, you've got onions, you've got steak. Well, I like mushrooms too, and I think it adds to it. And so I have got some baby bellas here, which are cremini mushrooms, and they are sliced because I'm lazy. So, kaboosh! And that is 16 ounces or a pound of the baby bella mushrooms. And baby bella is, of course, they are an immature portobello mushroom. Oh, honey, it's okay. I understand completely. I know you miss your parents, and I've been going through a lot. My father was hospitalized with seizures a week ago, and he spent 2 days unconscious, and they still don't know what caused it. He's been moved to a rehab center to try to regain what the seizures and being on a glucose drip have removed from him. He weakened him, and now he can't get back and forth into his wheelchair and out again on his own. He needs to have that and it's hard to have him in a rehab center, but at least he's talking and he hasn't had any more seizures. So he's recovering, and God willing, he will recover all the way and come back, because my mother and myself, we miss him terribly. The last thing I add here, which is also not standard, is baby broccoli. And that is because I like broccoli. And it kind of makes this a mix between broccoli beef and pepper steak. So broccoli is particularly high in iron. I am iron deficient at the moment. Voila, I add broccoli to things. And you can, with a baby broccoli, eat the entire stalk, but it takes considerably more cooking than the upper edges do. So I am cutting off the lower edges, and that can be added to a broccoli soup. Either just a cream of broccoli soup or a broccoli cheddar soup. I have a really good recipe for a broccoli cheddar soup with chicken. It's absolutely fabulous. Andrew is not much of a vegetable-only kind of dude. He is more he's a carnivore. Let's just say it as it is. My husband's a carnivore, and so when I've made the broccoli cheddar soup, which was my version of Panera's, I put chicken in it, and you know what? It was darn tasty. Froze well too. We took it into our job. We were working at Intel at the time, and I had just come out of having a really bad case of bronchitis, and I just wanted soup, and I couldn't eat Panera's soup, so I made it myself. Because I'm allergic to garlic, it's always dangerous for me to blindly trust things from restaurants, and I have learned, much to my detriment, not to. So, alright, this is the last of the vegetables that's going to go in here, and I am going to start stir frying them. So, I have got to find the power cord. Now, about half a week ago, I had a big scare here because I had just been cooking something out here, and I'd plugged it in, and it was my electric skillet, and when I was done with that, I unplugged it, and I needed to plug in my sorry, my brain's dead. I needed to plug in my hot plate, and when I did that, it didn't turn on. And I started freaking out because we've had the hot plate for several years, and I was afraid it had broken, and that would have been very, very, very bad. They're fairly expensive, and it would have basically killed the stream here. But a little experimenting showed that my dog, who was very excited at not being locked in his kennel during a cooking stream, and during the time I was cooking, had been dancing the rumba around and around the table I'm on, and he had managed to unplug the extension cord between when I used it for the electric skillet and when I used it to try to plug in the hot plate. So all it took was Andrew crawling underneath the table and plugging it in again. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is, I have an electric wok here. You can find the link to all of my equipment that I use on stream in my Discord under stream equipment. And I turn the heat up to a medium high, and this particular wok is really fast at heating up, and it's just a lovely wok. I'm going to pour 2 tablespoons of oil in here, and you need to let the oil get hot. That is the first thing you need to do, is let that oil get hot to where it starts to ripple. They call that steaming or smoking. Because if you put your food into cold oil, it's just gonna be oily. It's not gonna cook it. It's just gonna be oily, and that would be bad. Oh, let me see now here. Oh no. Okay. Sorry for the pause here. I need to find my inhaler. Hold on just a moment, please. I apologize if some of my current medical issues are making breathing exciting. Okay, so I can tell, although it's not something that's going to show up on StreamWhile, if I rotate the oil in here, it has little ripples. Can you see? There you see it. If you can probably see it on the stream there. That lets you know that the oil is actually hot enough. It's reached temperature. So it's time to start adding things to it. Woohoo! That is loud. I apologize. In fact, it's deafened me with the explosions. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Like I said, issues breathing. I put the broccoli in first because the broccoli is the vegetable that's going to take the longest to cook. It is a relative of the cabbage, and it does take a while to cook the things. Mushrooms would be the second longest because they need about 10 minutes, and I will be adding them in shortly. Cooked in a wok, unlike in a frying pan, high heat, a low amount of oil. You can actually brown your vegetables, and you can sear them, and it adds, if this was a giant wok like they have in the big Chinese restaurants, they would have an actual flame underneath it. It would be a huge, absolutely huge, wok, probably half the size of this table here. And you could hear when they step on the gas for it to increase the heat, this roaring sound from the fire, and that's called the breath of the dragon. And that adds a searing onto it. The heat goes so high, it actually will bring a slight blackening to some of the food that's being cooked in there. And that breath of the dragon is something that is a sought-after flavor in those particular dishes. It's a who cares fact, but there you go. I can't duplicate it at home, so it is a who cares fact because of that. I'm going to add the mushrooms in now. If I were just to add all of the vegetables in at once, not only would it overcome what the wok could handle at once, but it would cook the peppers and onions to absolute mush by the time the mushrooms and the broccoli were ready to be taken out and be done cooking. So that's why I'm adding these in incrementally and why I cut them in that particular order. If you have countertops, which would be nice, not only do I not really have a lot in the way of countertops here, we've done the best we can with a TV tray and a 4-foot long fold-out table. Our kitchen here is just tiny. They have about 2 feet on one counter next to the sink, and next to the stove they have about 8 inches on one side and 1.5 feet on the other, and that's all they have for counter space, and there's just no prep space in our kitchen. So I actually have more prep space out here. I'm hoping to improve that with our next place we move to. So also hoping to move to a place which is better set up for handicapped people like my parents who need to be in wheelchairs and walkers. A walk-in shower, for instance, would be nice. It's very difficult for them to get into those step-in showers that have the bathtub in the bottom. Very, very difficult. Can cause falls, and we just don't want that. Okay, so I will continue sauteing this, and this is going to cook about 10 minutes now, and that will cook the broccoli to a crisp tender, and it will also cook the mushrooms to where they have darkened and released their juices, which is when they're cooked. They're tender then. If you don't, they're going to have a weird kind of spongy texture, and most people don't like raw mushroom texture. So most people that dislike mushrooms, as a matter of fact, that's the first thing they talk about, is the fact that they don't like the texture of mushrooms. Some people actually say they don't like the taste because mushroom is a very earthy taste. I like it all. I do like raw mushrooms. I prefer them cooked, but I do like raw mushrooms. I put them in salads, and they're very tasty. I put them on pizzas. I put them in just about everything I cook here. You can see that as well. And I know that Mav is particularly fond of mushrooms as well, so that is a very good thing. And I had a very funny episode with Mav half a week ago, early last week. I had decided I was going to cook spaghetti here at home from my recipe, it's obvious. And he told me that his wife, Kate, they were having a huge snowstorm there where they live, and they were going to be getting about 3 feet of snow over the course of a couple days. It actually came a lot faster than that. But she decided she was going to make spaghetti, and she was going to make my spaghetti. So she got the recipe out, and she changed it a bit, which is fine. Every cook does that. I mean, she stuck to the majority of it. She added in a bit of things to Texas it up a bit. Probably was absolutely scrumptious. I might have to find out what she did to it so I can try that too. But she made my standard recipe, which will fill a soup kettle. It will fill a huge soup kettle, as a matter of fact, a 12-quart one, all the way to the top. And she told him she'd made spaghetti, come on up and get it. And he was pretty impressed with my spaghetti. There was a lot of, oh my godding, this is wonderful, which is very flattering. And they had a ton of it. I don't know, I never did ask if they just ate it or if they froze some of it, because it freezes wonderfully. So that is something that's possible to do if you cook large quantities like that. This, as a matter of fact, is going to cook a fairly large quantity. And combined with steamed rice, you can freeze these into single serving dinners and, pop them out and either completely thaw them before you cook them or throw them in the microwave for 9 to 12 minutes, depending on the strength of your microwave. And you'll have, pepper beef pepper steak when you want to have it next. So, did you end up freezing any of the spaghetti, Mav, or did you guys just eat it till it was gone? That's generally what we do with the spaghetti. My husband likes it really well, and actually everybody here likes it that well. She, as far as I know, the main difference, she didn't add the eggplant. But it was nice to hear that, he'd actually tried. They tried another recipe of mine months before that. They tried my Americanized chicken chow mein recipe, and they thought that was really good. And it is. It's not my recipe. It is a recipe that I got from, ouch, touch the edge of the wok. Don't do that. That hurts. I got that from a man who, his family has had a Chinese food restaurant for 3 generations, and this was their grandfather's original recipe for the Americanized Chinese food that everybody sold everywhere at the time. And it's pretty much the classic recipe. Now, if you ask for chicken chow mein in a Chinese restaurant, most likely what you're going to get is a noodle dish with a little bit of vegetables, a little bit of some meat source in it. But it's not going to be the one that I grew up with. And that's the one that older people, like me, actually, if you went to restaurants through till the 90s, that's the recipe you would have gotten for chicken chow mein or chicken subgum chow mein, which is basically a big vegetable dish. It's heavy in celery, it's got lots of bok choy, it's got baby corn, and it's got water chestnuts, and it has bean sprouts in it, and it's then it's in what they call a white gravy, which means they didn't put soy in it. It's a chicken broth that they thicken with cornstarch. And it's really a vegetable-heavy, yummy dish that is either served then on softened noodles, which, if you ordered it now, that's what you would get the majority of the dishes, or you were anywhere from the 40s to, well, actually 30s to 90s. And then they got a little bit more authentic, including that restaurant. And that's why he started giving those recipes out. They started doing more authentic Chinese recipes, and people were saying, hey, this is fabulous, but yeah, I miss my chicken chow mein. I miss my almond chicken, which is just, fried chicken with almond gravy, and I miss all those old recipes. And so he thought, well, let's give them out. And now you can see that the mushrooms have changed color. This whole thing has decreased in volume. And I'm now going to add the peppers and onions to it. And excuse me. I am so sorry. Honey, I'm sorry. Can I get you to get me something hot, half a cup of coffee or something? I'm having spasms in my lungs right now, so it's making me cough. Alright, I'm adding the onions and peppers in here, and it's going to be maybe 5 more minutes before I need to get ready with the beef. So, I am going to just soften the onions. They're going to start to turn translucent, but only just start, because I still want to have the texture to them. I want to have them still be a little crispy when you bite them, and the same with the peppers. The peppers can completely cook away, and so can onions if you cook them too long. And the idea of wok cooking things, of stir frying, is that you retain the texture and the character of the vegetables, so that they are, well, they're just, everything has its own level of crunch, everything has its own level of tenderness. It's just a really nice, and strictly speaking, it's a more healthy way to eat your vegetables because you haven't cooked all the vitamins out of them. So, I am going to start that there, and I am going to get the steak out. And like I said, you generally cook this with beef top round steak or something like that. I did not know this was what we got. Thank you. I am taking a pause here to hug Pink Pig, who will make a quick run through. Because she comforts me. This is a very thin cut top round steak. Normally I like to cut thin myself, but they were out of the regular. So what I've got is very thin steak. That's fine. It'll cook up very quickly then. And it will also, they've already cut through all of the beef fibers, which is what makes the steak tough. So, and this is roughly 2 pounds. It's a little bit shy of 2 pounds. I call for 2 pounds in it because I like a lot of beef, and it makes a lot. And that, if I'm going to be cooking, I want it to make a lot. I just do. I don't want to waste my time making food that I have to cook every single day of the week. And I'm pretty sure I'm not alone on that. I think most people, if they're honest, in today's world, they don't have a lot of time for things like cooking every single night. So leftovers, really a favorite. And if you are really hurried, you know, a lot of food called out, a lot of food stopped for at a fast food restaurant on the way, or sent out for an Uber Eats or whatever your local food service is. Mark it up horrendously and charge you amazing amounts of money, and then want a tip on top of that. No doubt the drivers deserve it. They have to pay for their own gas, and with the gas prices these days, ouch. So, but it gets very expensive very quickly. It's just easier to, if you're gonna cook, you know, 2 or 3 meals worth. Then you have the meal, you can have it for lunch at the office the next day, or you can have it so that you can have it so you freeze some of it. You can have several days worth of it. When I was working, what we would do, and I'm cutting these, well, a little over 1/4 inch wide, so these are going to be fairly fine strips of meat. And what we used to do is I would cook on the weekend, definitely, and I would usually cook on Wednesday, and I would cook things that I did a big amount of. I would cook an entire pot of soup, and we would eat one meal of it and maybe leave another meal out and then freeze the rest. And I would make spaghetti, or we would make chicken with rice or something like that. And again, we would freeze portions of it. It doesn't take very long, and you can have a pretty wide array of foods in your freezer, so that anytime you don't feel like cooking, if you're sick, if you just feel kind of blah or feeling lazy or want to watch TV and a movie and you want to have, something you had a little while ago, it takes very little time. It takes about a month, and you have a pretty good selection of foods in your freezer. This is why my 6-month anniversary present from Andrew with a chest freezer, and I was thrilled by that chest freezer, and I still am. And he got an Xbox because that's what he wanted. Husband had husband presents, wife had wife presents. So now, of course, I want another chest freezer because one just isn't enough. But I have in the past done things up to and including cooked whole turkey dinners just to be put away in the freezer. My cousin and I waited until after Thanksgiving when the turkeys went on sale for 25 cents a pound, and we'd go and we'd buy a couple turkeys each, and we'd get together in her kitchen and we would make the turkey broth for making the stuffing, and then we would take and roast the turkeys. We would generally take 2 turkeys and boil them to make the broth. And then those turkeys would be used for making turkey salad. Because once you've boiled the turkey, it kind of has a dry aspect and it needs the fat of mayonnaise to make it pleasant to eat. And who doesn't love turkey salad? You could even make a Waldorf turkey salad sandwich, and those are yummy. Lots of things you can do with leftover turkeys. And then we would roast 2 more turkeys and make big pans of stuffing, and we put away 60 or 70 servings of turkey dinner. And so whenever we wanted to have it, we would put the turkey stuffing in there and the turkey pieces and the turkey slices and such, a mix of white and dark meat. Pour the gravy over it so it's soaked in. We generally didn't do the mashed potatoes or vegetable, but if we had the vegetable handy, we'd throw that in as well. And then all you had to do is have 12 minutes sometime down the line, and you have all of the joy of the turkey dinner. And, 6 months down the line, you've still got turkey dinner you can have whenever you feel like it. And that's just wonderful. So that's a stream for buying on sale, taking advantage of that, and cooking large and freezing. Okay, now I am going to wash my hands with my hand sanitizer since I've been handling naked raw beef. And dry my hands because the vegetables are now ready to come out. So I am going to transfer those back into their holding dish here. Well, it'll take me a few minutes to do this because all I've got is my flat spoon. I did not ask my husband for a scoop. I should have. That's on me, not on him. He has his lists that I generate before stream, and he follows them to the T. And then if I make a mistake, he can say it wasn't on the list. I can say, I'm sorry. And I am going to turn the heat off while I do this, because it's going to take a few to get all this transferred out. One ingredient that I forgot to add to my recipe, as it is on my recipe list. I did not add the couple tablespoons of oyster sauce I'm going to add to this, and I will correct that after stream. My headset's trying to fall off. That's kind of weird. Okay. Now, if you were going to do this in a vegetarian kind of way, you could actually at this point then sear some tofu that you'd pressed, and that would be wonderful taste too. You would obviously not be doing the beef version of this, so you wouldn't use beef broth. You would use vegetable broth instead, and you can make pepper chicken just as easily by using chicken. Use chicken breast, use chicken thighs, and use chicken broth in place of, and that's absolutely wonderful too. So if you don't have steak or it isn't available, you can go ahead and use whatever protein source you have at hand and is handy. So now I am going to add in a tablespoon of the oil. And this is just canola oil. I choose it because it's a fairly good high heat oil, and it is also one that doesn't lend a lot of flavor to things. You could use peanut oil in this and it would taste really nice, or you could add a little bit of sesame oil to this and it would also be nice and fairly authentic. But you have to watch how much sesame oil you use, because it is a very strong flavor. It is very strong. Hey Aspie, welcome in. I'm so glad you're here today. How are you doing? I am going to let this oil get back up to heat. We are making pepper steak today. And I have already cooked all of the peppers and onions. I've added mushrooms into it and broccoli. And now I am ready to stir fry the beef with a tiny bit, about a tablespoon of oyster sauce, just to add a little bit more flavor to it than what it's got. And let that cook just for a second in the oil. I find it just gives it a better flavor if you do. And then I'm going to be adding in 2 pounds of beef, which I have cut into thin strips. And this is a thin cut top round steak. Another option for this, which would be a really good one, would be a skirt steak or a hanger steak. But you have to make sure that you cut the fibers of the meat, or it's going to be very tough. And if you cut across it so that they're just short, then what you've got is a very nice, flavorful beef. Because those 3 steaks, those 3 cuts of meat are very, very flavorful and yummy. And just the best for cooking and things like this. I am now going to get my bloody stuff out of here and start stir frying my beef, getting it to let go of each other. And I am aiming for a medium temperature on this. It probably will go past that because the beef is so thin. Like I said, this is a thin cut beef. So the beef is maybe an 1/8 of an inch thick. This is steak that you would make like a cheese steak out of. If you were going to make a cheese steak, it's cut already for that. You could use this very easily by cutting it into strips, as I have, for fajitas. And obviously for this recipe. Oh, did you have to work today, Aspen? Yeah, this is, like I said to the people earlier, the thing with a lot of these stir-fry recipes is you actually spend more time cutting up the food than you do actually cooking it. Because it took about 15 minutes to stir fry the vegetables. 15-20 minutes. I have broccoli in there, so it took a little longer. If I hadn't had broccoli in there, it would have been done in about 10 minutes. But cutting the vegetables up always takes more time. You can buy vegetables already cut up. You can use frozen vegetables that you thaw and just toss in there. There's lots of ways to save time. I mean, I bought the mushrooms that were already sliced, partly because they were on sale and partly because it saves me a lot of time. Someone has already cleaned them, someone has already sliced them, and I value that time. So I am just going to continually toss this around so that I get all of the areas touching the sides of the pan. And once again, this is on a medium-high heat, which is pretty high on a wok. It will sear the meat if I let it. By not washing the wok out in between the vegetables and the meat, the flavor of those vegetables is also being cooked into, there's traces of it in here on the sides, and that is being incorporated into the meat as well. Pepper steak is a very simple recipe. There's not a lot of things to it. You could add, say, a tablespoon of minced garlic to this if you buy the garlic containers from the produce section. They have monstrous jars, as a matter of fact, of crushed or minced garlic, and it saves you a lot of time. You don't have to peel the garlic and crush the garlic and all of that. You can just use it by the spoonful. You could add that to this. Obviously, I wouldn't since I'm allergic, but I think I did see it in the original version of this recipe the first time I made it, but I wrote down my changes and it's been my way ever since then. So uses a little bit of oyster sauce, a little bit of soy sauce, and beef broth for its sauce that it has. And the beef is actually almost done now. I've got a couple more areas that are still pink that I'm seeing, but the meat has all separated. It has all turned a nice brown color. As you can see, even with the cooking broth in the bottom here, I'm going to lift this up so you can see it. You can see that the meat is actually browned, and that's what a wok cooking will do for you versus a frying pan. The frying pan just can't compete with the heat and the ability of the wok to sear things. So and now all of the juices from the meat are now here in the bottom of the pan. And the meat is actually ready to take out. And it's going to join the vegetables in a waiting container. And I'm going to make the sauce and then add the originals. Ouch, that was hot. I splashed myself. Try to be careful when you're doing this. Ouch. Yes, that was another hot thing. I'm going to scoop it up over the edge. Not the neatest way to do it, but I am frustrated by my spoon. And I've got that meat all out of there now. And it's tender and nice. I'm going to turn the heat down 4 cups. 32. 8, 16. Yep, that's about this much. This is a broth that I have verified has no garlic in it, which is nice. And I'm going to make a little more sauce for this than I would normally, because the sauce is nice going over the rice when you're doing leftovers, when either you're freezing it or you're having leftovers with it. And I just kind of like saucy things. Instead of just being a light coating, it's going to actually make a nice sauce for this. So I am going to bring this up under a medium heat, and I am going to take, honey, I need a bowl or a different mug so that I can mix up the cornstarch and water. Sorry, I should have asked for a bowl. Yes, but you have lots of food here, so it will be, this is a 15 cup bowl, by the way. 15.6 cup serving bowl that I have here, and that's what I have filled with just the meat and vegetables for this. I have another container that has about 16 cups of rice in it, and we will be using that for the base for this.
Will this work?
Thank you. So I will now take approximately 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And yeah, I'm eyeballing it. It really doesn't matter that much how much. When I've got that much broth to thicken, it will just thicken more liquid, basically. And I've got some water here. You want to have a little more water than you have cornstarch. And then I'm going to get a fork here and mix it up. Now, cornstarch melts into water really easily, so this isn't something that's going to make lumps. It basically just melts and disappears, and then what you want to do is use it immediately or it'll resettle on the bottom. So what I've got here looks like milk. It's cornstarch mixed into the water, and once I have got it mixed all the way up so I can't feel any cornstarch stickiness on the bottom, then I will add it to the beef broth and cooking juices, like so, and it will turn it kind of milky looking, oddly enough. And as that cooks, it is going to cook the opaqueness out of it, and the sauce will go to be a more recognizable, clear brown sauce that you would find in a Chinese restaurant on their mushu pork or something like that. So that's how they get their sauces that way. You could thicken this with flour, but no, I can't eat garlic. If you used flour and water in this to thicken it, it would just remain a more cloudy gravy. As long as you cooked it through, you wouldn't taste a difference. You wouldn't taste the regular flour in it. Cornstarch and arrowroot, if you put them in there, and arrowroot is gluten-free, are powders that you add to a water and you whip it up, and then you add it into a broth or cooking juices, and they produce a clear gravy and clear sauce when it's finished. So that's the benefits for that when you're doing the Chinese and oof, got a little happy there with that mix. Chinese and Japanese food, their sauces are thickened with cornstarch and water, or you can add arrowroot in there instead if you have to be gluten-free. So this will just take a little bit to cook, and when it is done, I'm going to add the meat and vegetables back in and mix it through, and then it will be time to serve it over some rice and take some pretty pictures, and then Andrew gets to eat. So he gets his benefit, and yes, this is a new shirt. It is a clearance shirt, which is a winter print, but it's a really pretty one, and I like the mauve colors of it, so it has added to the Hedgepig corral of clothing. Now, you want to make sure that you're stirring this the whole time, because as this thickens, just like with any gravy or sauce, it can and will stick, and then it will get kind of gooky and you can make lumps, and not very attractive. You could get your stick blender out and re-blend it, but a little bit of stirring will keep you from that eventuality and that reason. And I can tell that it's starting to thicken now. It's no longer a broth consistency. It is getting to be like a thin gravy. I didn't hear you, Mav. I don't know what it is you said, but if Kate slapped your face, well, I'm gonna side with her and say you had it coming. So, well done, Kate. Well done. And, all right, this is starting to come to a boil. It is thickening. It's clarifying. Now, this isn't going to be a completely clear thing. You're not going to look at it and think it's a broth. It will be definitely a gravy, but it's going to be a darn tasty one. It's got all the goodness of the cooked beef in here. It has all of the goodness of those vegetables. And it has all... Well, you know, I gotta side with Kate. She's my girl. You know you were gonna have trouble when we got together. So now I have got this coming to a boil, and it is starting to look really nice here. It's clarifying around the edges. And the only thing I would add at this point is about a teaspoon of soy sauce. I'm not going to add that because my mother eats it. She's unrestricted sodium. The beef broth that I put in there was a reduced sodium, or most of the time, if I can find it, I get unsalted beef broth, or I make it myself and don't salt it. So this has come to a boil, and I am going to taste it, make sure that the cornstarch has cooked. It has. It has cooked, and I am now going to carefully add back in the meat and the vegetables that I cooked earlier. And yes, I have made way too much broth for it, but that will be something we will enjoy when we're doing the leftovers. So we have nice sauce to go on our rice. All right, I'm gonna let that come back up to heat. Doesn't that look nice? You can see all the brightness of the vegetables, and you can see the mushrooms and the peppers and the onions. You can see the pieces of steak in there. And now I am going to remove that to the side and get out my pretty serving plate. And I'm turning the heat off under this because it doesn't need to cook any longer. And I have some steamed rice that I have from my rice steamer that Andrew made before stream. And it is a Calrose rice, which is a shorter grained white rice. And I like it better than jasmine rice or the other, even long grain white rice. I like the flavor better, I like the texture better, and I really can't stand jasmine rice personally because it tastes like jasmine. And to me, that tastes like what happened when I was a youngster and inexperienced with spraying perfume, and I sprayed perfume in my mouth by accident, or walked through a cloud of perfume and got perfume in my mouth. And perfume is just nasty. It's just bitter and blech. And that's what jasmine rice tastes like to me. Just like you've got some people that can't taste cilantro without tasting soap. I'm one of them. So let's serve this up here and make sure that I've got all of the vegetables in here represented. And the steak. Make this as pretty as I can across our plate. Ooh, very hot. Let me grab some more peppers so it's more obvious it's pepper steak. And add another little piece of broccoli here on the end. I'm sorry, this is the primping for the camera taking, not because it's really necessary. And here's some orange pepper strips. If I can get them. I'll get some more yellow ones, they're pretty. Yellow peppers and some red peppers. Here's another red pepper piece that I will put in the middle. Got that there. And I've got the mushrooms and the beef. I've got everything in here. I'm going to add some more juice over the top, because this isn't a nasty juiceless saute. And that's really the best flavor sauce for this, is the sauce that it was cooked in. Adding the vegetables to it, adding the flavors of the meat, adding the beef broth and some of the oyster sauce to it. That's just gonna make this a nice, mildly flavored sauce that will taste good for every single bite. Now I'm going to clean up any dribbles and give it to my husband to photograph for y'all, and then we're gonna try it. So while I give him this, I'm gonna get his plate ready. Yeah, here you go. I'm going to get a more manly portion on this. And in my cooking, in my steamer, it takes about half an hour to cook anywhere between 2 cups of rice and 16 cups of rice. So it's from Black & Decker. It performs admirably. We've never had any issues with it. It's never burned anything, for instance. And I am going to ladle much more onto this. While Andrew is making with the light box and snapping pictures. Nice. Okay, and just give that here to the side. And we will need a second fork for me so I can eat. And now I am going to add the sauce to his. And I believe Pink Pig is showing her approval and eagerness. The visitor from the chair next to the table. And I don't know if that's enough sauce for you, honey. We'll pretend it is, and if you need more, you can come back. Okay. So here is Andrew's. And oops, flip it out over the table. Perfect. Here you go. And you can show everybody bite. Oh, you're going to take it? Okay. I will take and gather up some meat and broccoli and pepper on my fork here, and show it to you close up, and lose my broccoli back into there, but oh well. Oh, that's so good. The peppers are still crisp, but tender. You can tell they have been cooked. The beef is very tender. You can taste the oyster sauce in there, and you have the beef broth. The sauce is so nice. The mushrooms, of course, are mushroomy, and I'm going to have some broccoli here with it too. Ooh, and the broccoli is lovely. It has softened, but still has some bite to it. So it's a nice steamed consistency. And the flavors come together just so wonderfully on this. This is absolutely a wonderful dinner to have put together very quickly. You can eat it for several meals. It will freeze beautifully. And I will update that one line on the recipe, which is posted on my Discord. And I will post the pictures after the stream here. And I hope you all get an opportunity to, can I ask you, yes, sorry, you Nares X. I don't know what that means. Are you streaming Maverick? Yes, you are. We are going to raid Maverick. So for those of you who are still here, I would like it if you would hang around and raid Maverick. And I will see you guys again probably on Wednesday. Tuesday is going to be a little bit too soon. So I am thinking I'm going to be doing cod in a lemon butter sauce with mushrooms and rice. And it's a casserole kind of thing. So I will see you guys there. And we will see you on Wednesday. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it so much. does.